Today I wanted to talk about just sort of some other causes of depression. The first one is guilt. The second one is stress. So with me, I often felt guilty for the things that happened in my family, like why we didn't have enough money, or just why certain things happened. As I might have already said, my dad was a gambler. So he would go and spend just about every spare bit of money on gambling on the horse races. And that was actually really difficult for my family. One of the things that we sort of noticed, or my mum sort of noticed, was they actually separated for a few months. And so he left and she went on the unemployment benefit, and there was money left over, so she could pay the bills and everything else. And even though she was smoking, there was still money left over. When he was around, there wasn't any money left over, so we didn't have luxuries. And I sort of felt that maybe if I hadn't been around, then, you know, I wouldn't be a jinx, that my dad might have got lucky on the horse races, or he might have actually won some money in lotto. You know, stupid things like that. And, you know, stupid and not in a negative sense, it's just, you know, it's not rational thought. So yeah, I blamed myself for a lot of the stuff that sort of happened. Put it this way, I had a wee accident when I was learning to drive, and well, it could have put me off driving. And because of that, I felt that you know, that was my fault completely, and that I had to find some way of replacing the car, because I mean there was no way that the car could have been repaired for, you know, a good amount of money. It's really hard to sort of go over the things that sort of happened in my family, so excuse the pauses. There was an incident when my brother started high school. He got a brand new bike. Now, he'd got taller, and of course he actually needed an adult-sized bike rather than a kid-sized bike. And this was back in the 80s, where we didn't have fancy BMX or things like that. So anyway, he gets this brand new bike, but when it comes to my turn, and when I'm big enough to actually have an adult-sized bike, I end up with a second-hand bike that's refurbished. And when things like that happen, it makes you feel like you're second best, that you're an afterthought, or that you don't deserve anything better. And it wasn't that at all. It was the fact that he wanted to spend money on gambling rather than actually get me something decent, which is what he was supposed to do. When it came to other things where finances were concerned, everything we had was bought by hire purchase, so you know, they'd pay installments. and he'd want certain things which weren't really necessary, but he'd still want them, and he'd basically go and get them without consulting my mum. Now like I said, I felt second best in a lot of ways. I mean, it was like too, when my brother decided to move out, Dad's reaction was, hooray! When I wanted to do it, and I was 23 years old at the time, it was, are you sure you know what you're doing? And so there wasn't a lot of trust there. So yeah, that's guilt. The second one, of course, is stress. Now, stress can be all sorts of things. It can be from finances, so you're struggling to pay bills, so of course you're stressed. There is good stress, like when I'm actually working hard out on a novel, I can get stressed, but it's the kind of stress that it's not so much good stress, but it is something that comes with the territory, and you're trying to sort of juggle everything at once. Another type of stress is when you wake up in the morning and you think, oh my God, I have to go to work, I don't want to, because there might be something going on at work that you just don't want to face. Stress can also be from illness, and the thing about stress too is it creates a lot of physiological problems. And one of the things I found out was that it increases the amount of cortisol in your body, so that actually leads to things like high blood pressure or heart problems. Yeah, so that's one of the things, that it's a combination of mental health and physiological health. It's, psychologists call it the biomedical, or the biosocial, psychosocial model, and stress is more one of those biopsychosocial things, where it's a combination of factors. It's that's psychological, it's social, and it's medical. And the last thing I want to mention is, I know with last week's video I looked quite bad. I was feeling quite negative. So one of the things that they say causes depression is negative feelings, but then again, it could be one of those chicken or egg things, like, which came first, the negative feelings or the depression. So you can't really figure it out either way. I mean, I don't know whether the negative feelings came first or whether it was the depression that came first. I can't say either way. And some people will look back and go, oh yeah, I started thinking negatively, and then I was diagnosed with depression. That doesn't necessarily mean that the depression wasn't like a flow-on effect from the negative feelings. It could be that the depression was already there and it caused the negative feelings. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say about that. Yeah, sorry for the ramble. Like I say, when I get more comfortable with doing these, then I'm sure I'll ramble a lot less. But that's all I have for this week. Thanks.